So, just that, it is a real brewery. It's not Disney World. So there's wet floors, there's hoses, there's slopes, there's floor drains, there's stairs, there's valves, there's all kinds of real brewery things happening. So don't touch anything. Watch your step carefully. If you're wearing flip-flops, be especially careful. Flip-flops are very slippery. So they're designed for sandy beaches. So just be careful with all of that. As Nate shows you around, if you're concerned about something, just bring it up with him. And you know, kids just hold on to your parents' hands. So watch that. And thank you guys for taking the tour. So it's kind of fun. Rock and roll. He's a better brewer than you.
Alright, we're going to start off over here on this side. Alright, there's 4 main ingredients here. Barley, hops, yeast, and water. I have 2 examples here of hops and barley. You guys want to check those out while I talk? Our main malted barley is a 2-row malted barley from Canada, and we store it in that silo there. You can see that big guy, a big tower. It holds approximately 63,000 pounds of malted barley, which is approximately 250,000 bottles a year out of just that same thing. It's our base malt that we use in every beer gets that malt. Especially malt, I'll get to show you when we get upstairs. You can see the different colors and flavors and aromas out of those. Hops, as you see in that jar, those green pellets, those are pelletized hops. They grow on a vine, kind of look like a mini pine cone. An example are those green vines growing on that side. We also have on the side of the restaurant over there too as well. Those are hop vines. There's no hops on it yet. It's usually like August, September. Not very viable for brewing, but they're fun to look at. See it. Yep, those are hop vines. Yep. Feel free to ask me questions at any time. We're going to go inside now and wait for the noise and start seeing the brewery. You guys want to see? Does anybody need a beer while we do this?
Sure. Yeah.
We have currently on tap IPA, Bare Naked, and Dirty Blonde. All right, Dirty Blonde, Bare Naked IPA. Oh, Dirty Blonde, please. Dirty Blonde. Brewery Tour.
So, many more to come. Oops. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Nothing like starting the morning off with some cold beer.
Nice head on that. Cheers. Yum.
How's it? Nice
Delicious,
and
yeah.
We just started, just got these kegerators for the tours. So they're pretty fun. We got another one upstairs, but it's not quite working.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Beer naked? Beer naked?
Alright, I'll take whatever's pouring out.
I mean, they're all going real fast.
This is just woken up in the morning, that's what it is.
Yeah, little cranky. Okay. Everybody good? All right, we're going to go down this way. Again, always watch your step. There's hoses and stuff hanging around. It's going to be a slow floor here. All right, so that silo out there has that malted barley that I told you about. It comes out of that bottom of that tank, goes up to our mill room upstairs that you guys will get to see. The mill will crush that grain, come down this white tube into this vessel, which is called the mash lauter tun. On the bottom of it, there's a stainless steel plate that has these really fine slits in it that will keep the material of the barley above it and let liquid go through it. So that crushed grain comes through, meets a certain temperature of water, which then activates enzymes in that barley. Those enzymes will then, what they do is they go to the starches inside of the barley and convert those starches into sugars. This is very important because that's what yeast eats to make the alcohol. So we're essentially making a food environment for the yeast. And this is the first step, the mash lauter tun. We'll take that, we'll clarify it, and then we'll run it off into the kettle. Here is where we will boil about 15 barrels of that liquid. We'll boil it for an hour. And we also add the hops at this time. The kettle is right over here. Hops, when they were discovered, were used to counterbalance the sweetness of the malt. The malt is very sweet, has a lot of sugars, as I mentioned before. So hops are added to add some bitterness to kind of balance off that sweetness. The longer you boil the hops, the more bitterness you get. The later in the boil you add them, the more flavor and aroma out of the hops you get. So for a 60-minute boil, if we want just bitterness, we'll add it right at the beginning of the boil. Boil those hop boils for an hour. If we want a lot of flavor and aroma, like the Dirty Blonde and the IPA, lots of hop flavor and aroma. We'll dump a whole bunch of hop right at the end of the boil. After the boil, then that sweet liquor will then get whirlpooled, moved over to this vessel called a whirlpool, where that liquid is spun really, really fast. And all those hop solids and unwanted proteins get shot to the side of the vessel, fall down to the bottom, and collect and make a nice cone. It helps clarify that wort so that we don't get any, like I said, unwanted proteins that can affect head retention or even the clarity of the beer. And all those hop solids, you just don't want that in fermentation. So that'll spin for about 10-15 minutes. Once that's done, it's at about 200 degrees, maybe 205 degrees. No living organism can live in a liquid that hot, so we need to chill it down. Yeast likes to ferment. There's two types of yeast. There's ale yeast and a lager yeast. They both like to ferment between 50 and 70 degrees. So we got to chill that down pretty quickly because it's going into the fermenter right after this vessel. So that hot liquid will go through this device called a heat exchanger. On one side of the plate is the hot wort, 200 degrees. On the other side is our tap water or another substance called glycol. There will be a heat exchange. They're just passing by each other on a steel plate, and the heat is just exchanged from hot to cold. It comes out right at this port here at our desired temperature. The lagers are between 50s and 60s, ales 60s and 70s. So it's coming out of that port at that desired temperature and going to either one of these fermenters that we have in this building. You know a fermenter because it has the conical bottom to it. So all of these vessels right here you see are fermenters. This is where, while that chilled down wort is moving over, we also inject the yeast in line. And all of it goes into the fermenter and fermentation begins. The first day, the yeast is it's just dividing, going through mitotic division. And then once it's done dividing, it will then start eating sugars and making alcohol. Ales take about 5 days. Lagers take about 7 to 9 days to ferment. Once it's done, the yeast will then, what's called flocculate, bundle together and drop out a solution. And then we'll take that clarified beer above it and move that to a dry tank that I'll show you. But real quick, this is a good example of fermentation in action. What yeast is also doing, besides making alcohol, is producing a lot of carbon dioxide. And that carbon dioxide needs to escape, so it comes out of the top through this blow-off arm, and then into that bucket, which was water. But we keep it bubbling in the bucket, so when fermentation's done, no air from outside will go into the fermenter and then possibly ruin our beer. So it's also a good way to monitor fermentation. You know, if you're just working in the brewery, you see bubbles going, and you have a little peace of mind that it's working. All right. We're going to move out this way. Any questions so far? Okay. So once the fermentation is done, we need to get that beer out of the fermenter and put it into a storage vessel called a bright beer tank. You know a bright beer tank because it has a flat bottom, not a conical bottom. And this big guy here is an example of our newest and biggest bright beer tank. It's a 60 barrel, holds 60 barrels of beer. Our brew house produces 15 barrels, so to do a 100 barrel fermenter there, we do 5 brews in one day. It's actually, we do 20 barrels on it. And then it's done fermenting and we transfer to the bright beer tank. There it's stored cold, and we also add the carbon dioxide to it to get the carbonation. We test it throughout, and then once we get the right levels of carbon dioxide in it, we stop the CO2 input, and then we have a finished product. From there, the product will either go down to a cold room so that we can serve it in the restaurant, and or go into a keg or go into a bottle. Where it goes into the bottle is upstairs, and that's going to be the next part of the tour. Does anybody need some more beer before we go up there?
Yes.
Yes. I don't remember what everybody had, but we'll cut the room out. Bare naked?
Yeah. Yes, please.
How long does it take from start to finish, where you can either put the beer in a bottle or a keg or ready for the restaurant?
On an ale that is not dry hopped, it'll be ready to go in 6 days. 7 days, I'm sorry. On the 7th day, we can put it in a bottle, keg, or in the serving room. On a lager, it's about 11 days. On a dry hopped beer, it's about 11 days as well. So we have to schedule appropriately. We need something in at the end of the month. We have to put it on our schedule early so that it's finished in time.
Thank you, Dr. C.
IPA, please.
Yeah, no problem.
Cheers.
All the way up to PhD to become what's actually labeled as a brew master. Yeah. So brew master is kind of a term that a lot of people throw around, but there's an official brew master that you have a PhD in something, any kind of specific science.
Fermentation science.
Yeah, or like yeast science or anything, some kind of protein that's in head. You study it, publish a paper and it goes in a journal and all that stuff.
You're official.
You're official. You are a brewmaster. Then what you do is you usually work at like a Bud Miller Coors or a Stella Artois, those big guys where you can run a big operation and know how to problem solve or anything like that, design something.
He's made beer before at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we
First
usually all
time he
start.
made it, I came home and the house stunk so bad. I'm like, I think I'm sleeping in this house.
Oh man, it's a delicious
just
smell.
awful. And you can hear the bubbling when
Yeah.
they put it in, he puts it in like a bucket like that, and you can hear it gurgling and what's in the
Bloop, bloop. You didn't boil over on your first one, did you?
No, no, we didn't.
Oh man,
When I
she
was
would.
doing it, I'm like, this kind of smells a little bit. And you don't smell,
Yeah, after a while you get used to it, but no.
So I come home, oh my God.
The tiny apartment, so I can't try.
This is a major part of our operation. 25% of our sales are in the restaurant, other 75% are in kegs and bottles. So this is a very crucial part to the brewery, very finicky, lots of moving parts, everything's got to be synchronized nice, so it can be a pain sometimes, but we need it. So first off, the bottles get loaded on this conveyor belt here, as you can see. They get pushed over by the conveyor belts over to the first station, which is the rinsing station. You can see that there's some bottles upside down over there. What happens is it grabs it, flips it upside down, wets the inside with water, lets it drain, flips it back down. The inside of the bottle needs to be wet because you get a really good fill. If it's not wet, carbon dioxide can stick to things on the inside and then you can make your beer flat.
That we kind of sanitize the inside of the bottle.
You don't need to sanitize it. No, it's just regular water. So it gets flipped back down, then it goes on another conveyor belt to this second station, the filling station, which is it always looks like a big robot kind of thing. It's this guy right here. This whole portion. It has 12 heads to it, so it can fill 12 bottles at once. Our old one had 4 heads. It can fill 4 bottles at once. And that old one did about, on a good day, 15 bottles a minute. This guy now we can do 40, 50. On a good day, I think they've been doing like 50, 52. So it's great. This thing has really helped with our production because we were ramping up production a lot. So it's helping us keep up with demand. All right, so on this filling station here, the bottle will go in. There's oxygen in that bottle, and oxygen is bad for beer. It stales it and makes it go bad. So the oxygen gets vacuumed out, and then CO2 gets put into the bottle to replace the dead space. Then the beer gets filled in the bottle from the bottom, pushing up the CO2 so it never gets exposed to anything but the CO2. And then there's a little CO2 blanket on top of it. Beer will leave the station after it's been filled, go on the conveyor belt, and this next station is the capper, or the capping station, this guy right here. It has a bunch of caps in the bowl that come down a slide, and when the bottle gets put right underneath it, it puts a cap on it. So then it goes through a little rinser to get some beer foam off, comes around on the conveyor belt, and then it comes to its next station where it'll get a label. This is our labeling machine here. It just comes in. This device here spreads out the bottles to a certain degrees because it's timed for the bottles to be at a certain space. Comes through, label gets put on it, and the bottle just kind of rolls through here to make sure the label's on nice. Comes out to this table here, and there'll be someone taking bottles, putting them in boxes, puts tape on top, puts it on a pallet, and then it goes downstairs and gets stored cold and goes wherever it goes. Any questions so far? This is I don't spend much time up here because there's a bottling crew, but man, if you're up here and this thing's running, it's loud, it's crazy, there's bottles and things going on, and it's just nuts up here. It's absolutely nuts. But before we got this machine here, which erects our 6-packs and also puts the glue on the bottom of our cases, they used to do it by hand. They'd take the boxes, unfold them, and then with a glue gun put glue on the bottom, put them up. Oh man! And luckily it was at a time when the machine was only doing like 15 bottles a minute on a good day, and we're at probably like 200, 300 barrels a year, so it wasn't too bad. Still a pain, but now that we're up to 6,000 barrels a year, I mean that's tons and tons of boxes. It would take too long. So they got this wonderful machine. The 6-packs get shipped to us flat like that. They just come out of this guy here, where there's some suction cups that just erects it for us. And There's usually little notches here that'll put the little notch on there, make a 6-pack for us. And then it just comes sliding down here, and then on the other side there's a finished case box that comes out, and he'll just take 4 6-packs. Is it 4? 6? I think it's 6. Puts it into the case, and then they just pile them up all over here so that they're ready to go on a bottling day. And then they just take them out of here, bring them out, fill them up. So it's wonderful. It's definitely wonderful. Here's an example of a bunch of stacked boxes. You'll come to hopefully someday. Yeah, so stand up here. Alright, this is the specialty grain room and the mill room. So in the beginning of the tour I showed you the silo. The bottom of the silo there is this white tube here, PVC pipe that you see, that's connected to the bottom of it. Inside of it is a screw, and there's a motor up there called an auger that turns the screw and brings the grain up from the bottom. Where it says cane scale there, weighs out 15 pounds of malted barley. Once there's 15 pounds, it drops it into the mill, which is this next device here. The grain goes through. There's 2 steel rollers that will then crush the grain to a certain degree that we have it set to. And then there's that bottom white tube that'll go down. Remember with the brew deck when I showed you there's the white pipe coming out of the roof? That's that white pipe there. So it just gets crushed, goes down that tube, down into the mash lauter tun, and then there'll be a guy down there doing certain things with the beer. Any questions so far? Some good examples of some specialty malt. You guys want some in your hand? You are more than welcome to eat this. It is safe. But you can taste, you really taste the flavor of this malted barley. You know you want to.
Yeah,
maybe
we
this will
do.
change your mind. So this, you can notice that some of the grain, like it looks a little bit darker, a little brown. So in the malting process, they actually just kilned it for a longer period of time than they normally would with like our base 2-row. So it has a little bit more color. Some chemical reactions happened at that time, so there's a lot more different flavor. Like Sam Adams Boston Lager, they like to describe like caramel or toffee flavors. That's where you get that flavor, is from this type of barley. Then, if you want to make some stouts, or the really dark beer, at the maltery they will actually then just kiln it for an extra long period of time, and you get really dark malt.
Just the bottom.
And that can be a base malt?
Nope, just color and flavor. There's this roasted barley has been roasted so much that there are no more, the enzymes are killed. So you can't really use it at all.
Oh, there's no fermentables.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the espresso bean.
Those ones you can actually get chocolate and coffee flavors out of these. So when you see like chocolate beers, that's usually because of the malt, that dark malt. And we use wheat as well. Yep, this is our wheat here. Not much flavor to it, so you don't need to taste that. But we also have oats that we use for certain beers, and rye as well. All right, it's really hot in here, so let's get out of here.